Hey, folks, Rob Franick from the Princeton Review. I am joined by three glorious colleagues from three schools, superlative schools, that are all in colleges that pay you back. It's good to see so many of you out there. You have us for the next 60 minutes of time. And as we said in our preamble to our webinar, for the next 60 minutes, we are focused on this new title from Princeton Review. It just came out in January 2018, just last month, called Colleges That Pay You Back. We are focused shamelessly on the idea of what is a student's return on their academic investment, what is a return on that student and family's financial investment. Those of you who have joined us for webinars, then you will already be familiar with our GoToMeeting platform, and you will know that this in every way is a college admission roundtable discussion. So the questions are dependent on what you, students, parents, counselors, other educators that are listening to us tonight, volley our way. You have been verbose already and volleying, and very gratefully so, volleying questions to the Princeton Review through our social accounts and through our website. So we do have some questions here to prime the pump. Prime the pump. So I'm grateful as well. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't tell you that Nan To, who's my great colleague at the Princeton Review, is sort of running all of the technology for us. Those of you who are familiar already with the GoToWebinar, this will be repetitive on what you already know, but please follow, those of you who are new to the platform, all in that right-hand navigation on your screen, you will see lots of different features that you can use. The most crucial one is toward the bottom, which is type message here. Nan will be fielding your questions throughout the evening and volleying them to us, so you will hear her voice. Nan, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Princeton's Review webinar, Colleges That Pay You Back. I will be co-hosting today with Rob, along with our guest panelists. Just so you know, everyone's lines are muted, so if you have a question, please just write in the box, just as Rob mentioned. Also, we'll do our best to get through everyone's questions. If we're unable to answer yours, one of our experts will follow up with you after the webinar.
Excellent, folks, terrific. Before I turn the mics over to my colleagues and our panelists tonight, I'll just quickly introduce myself. Rob Franick, I'm editor-in-chief at the Princeton Review. As I was telling my friends and colleagues here as well, I taught my first Princeton Review course for the SAT, tail end of the Reagan administration. Finally, I am getting a lot of the questions on the SAT and the ACT right. But tonight, we are going to focus a great deal on that idea of return on our investment, college costs, financial aid. How do we navigate that system with great confidence and with great elegance if we're students and parents and counselors helping us along the way? On our second slide, so Nan, I'll look to you to just change or advance the slide forward. You have my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. Should you have any questions or comments, you need a sharper point on some of the questions that we had in the discussion today. I will be around for you, post the event as well. I write a bunch of books along with a very talented team of Princeton reviewers, one of which is Colleges That Pay You Back, and we've been writing it now annually for the last couple of years. Without further ado, let's take a look at that next slide, Nan, and then we're going to introduce our panelists for the night. We have Kent Hopkins from ASU, Bill Connolly from Bucknell University, Stephen Eck from New Jersey Institute of Technology. Again, superlative schools. These three schools are already profiled in Colleges That Pay You Back. There are only 200 schools in the book, so it is a superlative set. Kent, I will look to you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about ASU for those of our listeners who might not know about it.
Hey, Rob, it's an honor to be with you tonight, and greetings, everyone. I'm going to read from the book, okay?
All right.
I really want you all to focus on the book. ASU is honored to be part of it. About us, Arizona State University is a top-ranked public university with multiple campus locations in the Phoenix metropolitan area. And oh, by the way, it was 83 degrees here today. I did outside in it, but it was 83 degrees here today. I think one thing about ASU that people don't understand is that we're not just located in Tempe. We have two campuses in the Phoenix area, a downtown Phoenix campus, as well as our West campus, which is near Glendale, and then our Polytechnic campus, which is in Mesa. And so when people hear about Arizona State, they think, oh, that's such a large campus. Well, again, go back to your book, everybody.
Yeah.
What our students say, going to one of the largest universities in the world means being exposed to infinite opportunities, people, and ideas. That's what one of the students said. So we have 5 distinct campuses. Our largest campus is our Tempe campus. We welcome about 8,500 freshmen to the Tempe campus, but our West campus welcomes 600 students. Our Polytechnic campus welcomes 600 students. And even outside of the Valley in Lake Havasu City, we have a freshman class of 30. So one other thing from, again, the book is the bang for your buck. ASU excels at providing resources for all students, regardless of their specific field, to network and create solid relationships that will be used for years to come. So I ask, when you listen to us tonight, college is a lifelong learning process. Making a good decision about where you attend is vitally important because it does have impact on the rest of your life. It's good to be here tonight.
Excellent. Ken, thank you so much, and honor again to have ASU and you join us tonight. Bill, we'll look to you to introduce yourself and to tell us a little bit about Bucknell.
Great, thank you, Rob. And it, in full disclosure, it was about 22 degrees and snowing this morning in Lewisburg. So we can't claim to have Arizona weather, but we're located in Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, which is a 3-hour drive from 4 major cities: DC, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, New York City, right to the bridge, and actually Philadelphia as well. We're a university of 3,500 undergraduates, probably not more than 50 graduate students. Our undergraduates study in one of the 3 colleges, College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Engineering, and announced last week the newly endowed Freeman College of Management. We are the one of the 3 panelists today working at a private institution, so we'll talk a little more later about cost structure. Important is that at Bucknell, 94% of our first-year students return for their sophomore year, and nearly 90% will graduate with a Bucknell degree. So one of the baseline elements to return on investment is, you know, can you complete your education, ideally at the institution you start at, but failing that, make sure one graduates. Our admit rate is around 30%. So we are among those colleges that have an opportunity to be highly selective. We use that not to exclude students, but to include a rich freshman class of about 960 students. So the idea is we recruit a student body, we enroll a composite, not looking for the same thing in every student. But again, I'm really pleased to have been invited, and I look forward to the Q&A coming up. Thanks again, Rob.
Awesome. Bill, thank you for that introduction. Again, honor to have you and Bucknell represented tonight. Thank you so much. Stephen, NJIT, we're huge fans of Princeton Review as well. We'll look to you to guide us through it.
Well, thanks, Rob, for inviting me and inviting NJIT to participate on this panel. We are pleased to be part of such a great panel and to share the message about giving students an opportunity. NJIT is a public research university. We've been around for over 100 years in many different names, but we consist of 6 academic colleges: the College of Engineering, the College of Architecture and Design, our College of Science and Liberal Arts, the Martin Tuckman School of Management, as well as the Yingwu College of Computing. We also have something called the Albert Dorman Honors College, which is an opportunity for the highest caliber student to have an opportunity to study at the university. We are a public polytechnic university, so we are STEM or STEAM based, as a lot of other people like to talk about. This gives our students real skills that they take out into the world, and they get great jobs, have terrific starting salaries. 90% of our students are employed or going to graduate school within 1 year of graduation. And one of the things we'd like to talk about is return on investment. In fact, and again, having students change and have an opportunity to move up in the world. The New York Times recently ranked NJIT #1 in the nation in terms of upward student mobility. So we are changing student lives, we're giving students opportunities, and we're really pushing the return on investment so students really are getting out into the world and without a lot of debt and with opportunities to be employed and to have successful careers.
Excellent, excellent. Stephen, thank you again. And folks, those of you who don't know me well, I visit a lot of colleges for a living. I have been at these three glorious schools. And again, we are in for an action-packed hour of discussion. So folks, what I told our guest panelists is that I'll just give a couple-minute walkthrough as to why we created this Resources Colleges That Pay You Back, and to set the tone for what you all out there, college-bound students and their parents, counselors that might be helping them along the way, are feeling and doing, and sort of. I also want to walk through some of the methodology and how we chose the 200 schools in the book. I'm hoping that, again, that primes the pump for some of us to ask questions. Again, if you've just joined us, Rob Franick from Princeton Review, joined by my three my panelists and colleagues, Nan To, who's our Princeton Review colleague, Princeton Review Blue Blood as well, will be helping us with technology. Those of you who are familiar with the GoToWebinar platform will know this well. Use that right-hand navigation, specifically the type message here button or functionality. Volley questions to us throughout this, and Nan will be volleying those questions directly to us. Nan, if we could see that next slide, I think this will sort of set the tone for the conversation. One of the things that I am most proud about doing at the Princeton Review is getting out to talk to lots of college-bound students and their parents. So pretty much on any given evening, I'm at a high school campus somewhere talking to college-bound students and their parents. Lots and lots of counselors as well, and I work with a lot of college administrators for a lot of weekend gigs. I visit schools on the weekends. But even more importantly than things that I get to do, visiting and talking to folks, we have an annual survey at the Princeton Review. It's called College Hopes and Worries, and we've been doing the survey since 2003. So we have a really robust data set, that longitudinal data set. But over the last year, we just a little over 10,000 college-bound students and their parents complete the survey. And interestingly enough, we found out that college-bound students and their parents agreed 100% of the time on one issue. And that one issue was their biggest worry, their biggest fear, the biggest stressor around the college process. And that biggest fear, as told to us this past year from students and parents, was the amount of debt that students would likely incur to pay for college. Number one fear. Very close second was that students would get into their first choice schools, but families wouldn't be able to pay for it. So what I and all of our colleagues here as well wanted to make sure that if you are a student or parent and you are feeling this way, nervous around college costs, nervous around the idea of navigating the financial aid process with confidence, and also being nervous and scared around the idea of taking on too much debt, you're not alone, right? Lots and lots of people have those same fears. But what we hope to do over the next few minutes tonight is to make sure that we're not making any avoidable mistakes around the college process. As we were talking, as we've been gathering over the last week or so of time in preparation for tonight, one of the biggest mistakes that we've seen students and parents make at the Princeton Review over the last 3 years running has been crossing an expensive school off of their list of consideration early on with only looking at sticker cost. So anyway, much of the content that we're going to be walking through tonight serves you up much of the research. I think it's must-have research information so that you can navigate that process with some confidence because of the data that you're now armed with. Nan, let's take a look at that next slide. So we know that students and parents are nervous around money. And so out of those 10,000 plus students and parents that went through the college process last year, we actually asked them, what do you think it is going to cost to pay for college? And you guys can read this just as much. I'll just look at it. So 43% said $100,000 or more, and this is the total cost of college. 24% said $75K to $100K, 18% $50 to $75K. Let's make sure that we can use the GoToWebinar platform here. So if you guys can type in, and here's the question. 1 year, total cost of attendance. Now we call this at the Princeton Review the big four, right? Tuition, room and board, fees, and books. What does it cost for 1 year, total cost of attendance, tuition, room and board, fees, and books for 1 year of public college or university? And this is in-state costs, tuition, room and board, fees, and books. Just type in your answer there. Nan, you're gonna be volleying those numbers to us. What do students and parents, counselors helping them along the way, what do you guys actually think it's gonna cost for 1 year total cost of attendance, 1 year public college or university?
So I'm having 20, 25, 30.
All right, very good.
He's
Very
actually
good.
born in 37, so he's very exact.
All right, excellent. We like that. I mean, the real number this year, and this is, you guys are well within the right margin. It's $20,770. So you're real right on spot. Let's look to the other side of the fence. Tuition, room and board, fees, and books for 1 year of private college or university. What do we think the averages are? What does it cost? Again, the big four: tuition, room and board, fees, and books. Slug it into that type the message here button, and Nan, my colleague at the Princeton Review, will volley those over to us.
40, 70, 55, 58, 45, 37, 30, so upwards of 50 on average.
Okay, terrific. You know, funny enough, I was giving this talk in New Jersey last night, and we asked the same question, and somebody shouted out $75,000, and I knew it was an NYU-bound student. But so here's the thing: tuition, room and board, fees, and books for 1 year of private college university is $46,950, right? So it's good, and you guys were all right around it, and I think it's good for us to take a breath, right? To understand that although this is not inexpensive, you know, college tuition is a sacrifice for students and families, certainly financially. Other than your family home, it's likely the next, you know, biggest investment that a family will make. But let's level set it right around $21,000 and right around $46,000. Then let's take a look at that next slide. All right. Interestingly enough, so we asked those same folks, 10,000 folks, what actually matters when it comes to choosing a school? And we had near parity of this past year, right? So we said that those 10,000 folks said 41% said it matters most career interests or best overall fit. And what I want to draw your attention to here is that academic reputation is just a small slice of the overall pie. Now, interestingly enough, those numbers have been consistent with Princeton Review definitely over the last 5 years of time, in that best fit and overall career interests have been dominant, and academic reputation and most affordable have been fairly thin slices of the pie. So in my mind, and Nan, we could take a look at that next slide. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were asking them that same survey is, what do students and parents, college-bound students and their parents this last year, what do they actually think the main benefit of a college degree is? And we had 42% of those folks saying the main benefit of a college degree is to get a better job or have a higher income. Now that might seem fairly junior, but the truth is that we have to understand where it fits into the overall spectrum of what students and parents are actually thinking about. So better job and higher income. Nan, this is one of my last slides. We'll just walk through the last bit of the survey information, and this is specifically about why we had created this title. And we've been doing this Colleges That Pay You Back title over the last now several years consecutively at the Princeton Review. We're focusing on winnowing down a list of nearly 2,000 schools and then pushing them through kind of that same bit of criteria. Now we're looking at 4 different things to qualify the 200 schools to get into the book. 4 basic buckets. One is an academic bucket, right? We didn't call this this book Best Cheap Colleges, right? We wanted to make sure that students were going to be engaged and challenged in the classroom. So that's always our first priority, and certainly the priority of my colleagues up here on the screen. Number 2, what was the actual total cost of attendance? So without any blinders on, tuition, room and board, fees, and books. What does it actually cost to go to those schools so that we can get that full picture? Most importantly is number 3, how aggressively were schools offsetting that sticker cost to make that school affordable to the average student and family? And number 4, and I know we're going to spend a lot of time discussing this tonight, is the idea of career resources, career development. What are students doing when they're actually at the schools in this book? What are they doing by way of internships, experiential learning, co-ops, whatever the nomenclature is that we're familiar with? What are students doing outside the classroom to complement their study in the classroom? And then are they getting internships and co-ops and experiential learning when they're undergraduates? And then are they getting jobs of substance upon graduation, or are they moving on to graduate schools and professional schools? So those are the filters that we put those schools through. 2,000, the next cut was 650, and then ultimately the 200 schools that are in the book. 2/3 of those schools are private schools, 1/3 are public schools. We have 7 different ranking lists on the book, and I can yap about those, but I won't spend that time talking about this today. So 2/3 are private, 1/3 are public. We have a nice sampling of my great colleagues and friends as panelists tonight. And I'm wondering, folks, if we can just prime the pump very quickly with some questions that, as I had mentioned before, we've been collecting from students and parents, Princeton Review social media, and on our website. And I have a couple, and these are just easier questions in thinking about what do you all, with your great and lofty experiences at schools, what do you think a student's return on their investment should be? And it could be an academic investment, financial investment. The field is open. I'm not going to call anybody. You could just volley out your experience. What do you think that definition should be for the average student and family?
I will, since we're at the highest price point at Bucknell, but I think one of my biggest concerns is this notion that there's a quid pro quo, in this, and all of the data you've shared, Rob, and others that are out there are aggregated data. They didn't say anything about my son or my daughter and what their experience would be. So that's number one. We all think our kids are in Lake Wobegon. They're all above average. But how they actually experience, college and their investment, not just in money, but in time, energy, and, commitment. What I would like to say is that I think this is the way to frame the overall conversation. The only thing more expensive than going to college, public or private, is not going to college. And the only thing more expensive than not going to college is going to college, borrowing significantly, and not finishing. And I'll put a final point. When college debt, as owned by students, not inclusive of necessarily plus loans, et cetera, when it went past the 1 trillion mark, the media went crazy, saying it has now eclipsed consumer debt. It is not consumer debt, it's an investment. So one of the things I want to tell students and parents is, yes, taking out loans, if you just took one out for a car or for a refrigerator or a new roof, those are durable goods that are going to eventually disappear. But an investment in education will not. So I'd like to frame my definition that way.
Totally hear it.
And Bill, there's an opportunity for all students to go to college, whether it be to begin at a community college and transfer to a 4-year institution after completing an associate's degree. And that's a perfectly acceptable way to afford a college education. So, you have to, you're out there looking for the best fit. You obviously want to better yourself or your child, but there is an opportunity out there for everyone.
Rob, I really appreciate the pie chart that you shared earlier.
Yeah.
It talks about learning, education, career, and outcomes. These are real individual choices. And so the families who have joined us tonight, you need to step back and think about how education is going to prepare you for the rest of your life. As Bill said, with his Bucknell freshman class and how many return, 86% of our freshmen return to the second year, but only about 65% of those students return to the major that they chose as they came to the university. Really important to stay open-minded about your next experience at a university, what it brings to you, and how transformative that university can be to possibly putting you on a different path for that initial career that you'll be in as a 22-year-old.
Totally hear you. You have all three brought up excellent points, and you're right, Ken. Just to piggyback on your point, the majority of students are going to go to schools that they have that transformative experience academically and otherwise. And for us to keep a wide lens and understand that as we're going through the college search process. One of the things I often bring up in my own lectures is that I think it's kind of unfair for a student at 15 or 16 years old at a college fair to meet a representative from a school, and the first thing that representative might ask is, what do you want to major in? Whereas I don't know if every 15-year-old knows that. And I think those things are just, meant with the best intentions to talk about some of the offerings that they have. But you're right. So many students continue to, change majors and experiment throughout their undergraduate experience. Bill, also, and we talk about this often at the Princeton Review, that idea of what is the value of a college degree, and the four of us, know this well. But just to put the metrics around it, students that have a college degree over their career lifetime are earning now new numbers, $2.5 to $2.8 million more than a student without that undergraduate degree. Even more compelling, they have lower rates of unemployment. They are more nimble in the professions that they get to choose. So when we start to think about this, and we're all been in higher ed for a long time, and around this spot, but I think that those metrics are powerful ones for students and parents that are listening to us tonight to think about the value of college. And Stephen, to your point, that there's a spot for everybody, and then it needn't be, maybe it's not going to be the romanticized route that we may have had in our heads at the beginning part of high school, and that the field is wide, and that is perfectly acceptable.
Right. And I'll just throw in one thing. I think I learned more about this business that I've been in for almost 40 years by going through it with my kids. And I remember meeting a parent, who was kind of really crazed about how much it was going to cost and what it was, the check they would write to, X university. And I said, I never once thought about writing a check to the university. I was investing in my kid, and I said, my confidence, and we see the metrics. There are families who think about, the strength of their students' commitment to education. And as Stephen points out, for some, at 17, they're not ready for that rocket ship through 4 years of college, but to go to an associate's degree program where they can find themselves. So again, I think thinking about it as not writing a check to a particular college, but writing a check as an investment in your child and helping them find the best fit.
That investment is so important, Bill. I really appreciate your use of that word. Too many times we talk about student loan indebtedness. Well, at Arizona State University, 40% of our students who graduate are graduating with no debt. And many times that's because the parents are stepping in and making that investment in their son or daughter for tuition, fees, room and board. Yes, there are merit scholarship opportunities. Yes, I truly believe you can balance work and learning. Many of our transfer students already do that. So the student then supplements his or her education by working. In some cases, it's to pay the bill. In some cases, it's career and professional development. The bottom line is, and I really appreciate, Bill, your use of the word investment, is families have to look at how education will pay long-term dividends to lifelong fulfillment in careers, in community, in service. It's transformed our 4 lives. I know it has.
Mm-hmm.
Without question, and so well said, all of you, in thinking about that academic investment as truly an investment, along with the financial investment and sacrifice for many students and families. And this just gives me such great solace and really heartens me to hear this from folks that I have such great respect for, and I know that folks on listening tonight and continuously listening to this conversation will applaud it as well. One of the questions that continued to come up from students and parents, in just preparation for tonight, was how does brand and perceptual brand of a particular school, public or private, play into the process, and how you all from your experience might help guide a student and a parent thinking that, a school that has a perceptual brand that's, lofty could guarantee a successful future, or you're going to have a better and a more successful life. I'm looking to you all for some guidance on that question of brand and perception and where it plays into the fit process.
You know, we being a public institution, there is always a perception that maybe that the quality is not quite on par with a private institution. And we fight that myth almost every day. I think what you need to do is you need to look at the clear numbers that we all produce in terms of what the successes of our students are. Where do they work? What type of jobs do they get when they graduate? What is their starting salary? What is their midterm career salary? And I think looking at the numbers will dispel that myth that there's really the difference in brands. Unless you're going to an Ivy League or an Ivy-like university, quite frankly, we're all pretty close together in terms of what the opportunities that we provide students. And you know, I'm a product of a private college education, but I'm also very proud to be working in the public sector for many years, and I firmly believe in the public university experience and the opportunities that they provide students. Look at, investigate, research. That's what parents and students should do. You know, it's quite frankly, you know, you just don't go over this discount of school just because it might be perceived as a lesser brand name.
I would say too that there's been a lot of studies about what is the significant difference between, you know, a Uber brand and a not so strong brand. You know, if you look at the Fortune 100 CEOs now, they're not dominated by Ivy League graduates. 20, 30 years ago, they were. If you look at, there was a study done by small colleges on students who were admitted to Ivy League institutions, but chose instead to go to a less selective private or public school, and longitudinally, they, taking a comparison, they did as well, if not marginally better. And I like to refer to adjusting the title of a book by Lance Armstrong. It's quoted as, "It's not about the bike." And his premise was, it's who's pumping the pedals, who's moving the gears. And so what I will say is, I don't think it's about the college. I think it's about the student and his or her commitment to their education in all respects, as Kent referenced earlier. So even though I work at a fabulously, I think, strong branded institution, I'll be for the first to say that places like ASU, they're doing groundbreaking work on retention and student success that is narrowing the gap which we used to have on the publics. So when I hear 84%, Kent, I get pretty scared because you're doing it at a lower price point than we are.
Well, that's very kind of you, Bill. I go back to, Rob, individual choices.
Yeah.
So I get a little bit nervous about the overuse of brand. And I went to fill in the blank because I used to have a former business manager at the University of Toledo tell me, no matter where you go, there you are. And so no matter if you lead with, I went to fill in the blank, it's you as an individual. So parents and students with us tonight, I go back to Rob's slide on fit and try and figure out where you are right now and how academically, socially, and culturally you see a college that fits who you are, maybe who you want to be, how you want to change things. But I get a little bit nervous about thinking about universities as brands.
Yeah.
Could I add one more thing too? And this is, I'm not putting in a plug for any one database, but the college scorecard.edu.gov .ed.gov. You can go in there and list up to 10 institutions for comparison, hit the go button, and they will come up and align on all these different metrics from, sophomore retention rate, four-year graduation rate, net cost. And it's not a perfect exercise, but to my colleagues' good points, it does help you to array across public, private, big, and small, a data set. And then you begin seeing that, oh, wow, I had no idea this small college, Muskingum in Ohio, is graduating students at a higher rate than X or something. And so I think the tools available are significant. And again, College Scorecard is one of the real quick and easy tools that a family can use to array these comparisons.
Agreed, Bill. And College Scorecard is a great resource. And I do think, again, the sense of what you all are saying is that there are quantitative metrics that we can look at. We can look at what students are doing, we can look at output, we can look at the commitment, and remind ourselves that the commitment that we make as students, as young people going through college, continues, transforms our experience as an undergraduate and likely profit us into career as well. But we have ownership in that, again, Ken, to your point, and owning your part of the process and understanding the foundations that we get to learn as an undergraduate. So totally applaud your comments, and I think it's again great and useful information to our students and families. One of the things that, again, we all prepped for this idea of, again, return on investment. And one of the things that we focused on, as I was saying in my opening remarks, is that idea of career development and career resources. Now, in my research, and I'm fans of each of your schools, but I wonder if you could walk us through what a typical student and family would receive at each of your school during the admission research process. So during the college process, when they're researching schools, what are they going to find out about career development and career resources at any of your three schools? And was that different 5 years ago? Did you incorporate the ideas of career development in your admission discussion points with the student?
I know we have. If you go back prior to the Great Recession, 2008, we did not. But ever since the Great Recession, we have been hitting home the return on investment, and we include that in our literature. We include that in our messaging to accepted students when students visit campus. That's one of the big things we lead with, because the data is there, the rankings are there, and it shows to a success story for our student. And to go back to the idea of upward mobility, we have a tremendous number of first generation students, and these are students that first person in their family to go to college, and we see that when they graduate, they have pulled themselves and their family to a different socioeconomic level. So much different than it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. It's something we value for the university, but we also, and we want to highlight it to our students.
Good stuff. Yeah. I like the idea. I'm sure that message, Stephen, resonates with first generation families. I mean, all families alike, but that idea of, we understand college isn't getting less expensive, right? We understand the costs, as we've already discussed in the beginning part of our presentation tonight. But I do think addressing those things early on in the college research process can give some solace and diffuse some of the frenzy for the typical student and parent, whether they're first gen or not. But totally hear you. Bill, Kent, love to hear your comments. Yeah.
Yeah, I would quickly say that prior to coming to Bucknell as VP for Enrollment Management in 2012, for the prior 10 years, I was Dean of Enrollment and Academic Services at the Johns Hopkins University. My portfolio included career, financial aid, academic advising. And the point being is that, you know, I've always looked at structurally, admission is part of a continuum. It is not, you get them admitted and then you turn around and work on the next class and don't find out what happens with the ones you just enrolled. So from a career perspective, I've always seen that as a natural given, that we would want to introduce the parents and the students to that experience. One of the tools that we created, and it wasn't our invention, there is a number of schools that have this software, but you can go into what we call our value page. And that's another way, instead of ROI, is value of a college education. And in our value page, we actually show on the right-hand side of a schematic various areas of, you know, employment, law, entertainment, et cetera, et cetera. And on the left, all the individual majors available at Bucknell. And then there's these pathways that go from major to these variety. And what you realize is a philosophy major ends up in all of somewhere. They don't end up in finance with the same volume as somebody from our College of Management, but
Right.
they end up there. So I think that's a tool that we use to help students visualize that the choice of major, to Kent's point, is that should evolve based on your education. And you should have support for saying, if you're passionate about it and you do well in it, you will have career opportunities. And they could be anywhere along that right-hand side.
God, I love that. Right, the spectrum is so wide for students. You know, in the liberal arts in general, there might be a natural path, or we might see a natural path in one particular major moving to a career. But the truth is that, you know, you can move into them from so many different parts of the many majors that we're all offering.
Yeah, and on a personal note, my daughter, in the middle of senior year in college with a double major in anthropology and Spanish, sent an email home to say, I hope you're not mad at me, but I decided I want to be a doctor. And she had not taken a single pre-med course. She graduated with an education because she discovered her passion, but she had to do a full year of pre-med courses before applying to medical school. But that's the way I think it should work, is, you know, you grow and you become informed, and it could take you, in her case, way off in the other direction, but I never thought for a moment she should feel bad about it. That's what an education should do.
Totally agree. Applaud the comment. Thanks for the story. I like that. Thanks, Bill. Ken.
So Rob, we have some questions here in the audience. So
Oh, yeah, sorry. We'll get to you definitely. Okay.
no worries. Sorry. Bill, they mentioned a website that compared the colleges earlier. A few viewers would like you to repeat that website for them again.
You wanted the college scorecard?
Oh, yeah, yes. So
Yes, it's one word, collegescorecard.ed.gov, /. And that should, then you'll be brought to a website where you can select colleges, a single college, or as I said, multiple colleges. It generates some, and they're about 5 or 6 set fields in which the data comes from iPads, and several other sources that are legitimate. This is not invented data.
So we have a question. When should you begin college search or visits?
Good question. It's the one that comes up often. Anybody want to take it? When do you start? Is it too early to start? You know, I mean, we can hear the nuance here.
No, it's not. In fact, I just received an email from a local Newark high school, elementary school. They want to bring 8th graders to our campus to get a feel for what college is like. I have a 15-year-old at home, so we're already starting the discussion. She's a freshman in high school. She's been to the NJIT campus, hasn't been anywhere else yet, but I fully suspect that in the next couple of months we'll be going elsewhere to see what else is out there. So no, it's never too early to start. And it's never too late to start either. And that goes back to the point of there's always a place for someone. And you know, we're running an open house in another week, and I know there'll be last minute seniors applying and still considering NJIT. So it's never too early and it's never too late.
Like it. And you know, maybe we can just try, because I get this question a lot in my own, you know, presentations for students and parents. And again, as Stephen is saying, and I think we're all probably agreeing with, you know, the idea of equipping yourself with some you know, information about college admission, kicking the tires, getting out to a campus, you know, even if it's a school that you might not end up going to, right? You become a primary source in the process. One of the things, and I think, you know, Ken Hopkins from ASU had mentioned this in his opening remarks, one of the things I'm most proud about doing the Princeton Review, I think I know a lot about schools. It doesn't matter a whit what I think. We yield to what we consider the experiences and the opinion of real college experts, and those are current college students, right? So I like the idea of listening to current students, and we survey hundreds of thousands of current college students, asking them what their experiences are. So I think if we're giving this, you know, the person that asked the question, was a student or parent, you know, a couple of things: getting out to college campuses, having the college discussion, it can only help inform us, and then listening to as much as possible about student opinion as you can. I'll get off my soapbox. Nan, another question from the audience?
If you're unsure of a major, are some colleges more flexible than others? How can you tell?
Good question. Yeah.
I'll take that one. I talked about it today, actually, at work. There are some colleges and universities, our public partners throughout the United States, where you have to lock into that major.
Right.
And there's not as much flexibility possibly as you may need. So, but if you're uberly focused to be that engineer or that management person, or you're looking at medicine, you need to ask those questions to colleges and universities. Don't be afraid to ask those specific questions. We will give you the truth. We will talk to you about flexibility or inflexibility in those particular areas. And then you as a family have to step back and say, okay, are we willing to go lock in, or do we need to look at a place that provides us a little bit more flexibility?
Yeah, and I would add that I think I don't think anybody should ever select a university for a specific reason. You know, if you have a 17-year-old in your house, you know what I'm talking about. And the fact is, if you're saying I'm going to go there because they have the best electrical engineering program, period, and that's what I'm all about. Well, as Ken pointed out, you know, 84% come back for sophomore year at ASU, but 65% come back with different majors. So what I like to tell students is it's great to have a kind of a core search parameter, whether it's athletics, an academic area, but make sure the institutions you look at have, you know, balanced strengths. And if you were to change your mind, and it could be that if electrical engineering changes your mind, because it's really hard, and you know, you thought you were good in math and science, but you're not good enough or something, then you don't have to transfer. You know, you have another strength there. So I would put that into the mix of, yes, knowing a major is helpful, but don't get locked down on it, because it could well change, and you should go to a place that could adapt to your change without you changing dorm rooms.
Totally hear it. Totally hear it. Stephen, can you give us some input on, you're in a technical school, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, same advice from your perch?
Yeah. Well, you know, there are majors. Like, for example, we offer a 5-year architecture program. That's a lockstep program.
Right.
You need to start day one as an architecture student. Engineering can be more flexible because there are related majors. You know, let's say you decide you want to be a computer engineer. Making your transition to computer science is a very easy, and you know, it's possible. But you know, I think you want to keep your options open, and as Bill said, you want to be able to, you want to see what else is available, and look at the the depth of the offerings at an institution. People are surprised at NJIT because they think, a lot of students think, oh, it's an engineering school. Well, no, it's more than just engineering. We offer liberal arts majors as well. So you just need to examine and make sure that there are other options for you. Maybe there's minors that are available to supplement what you're majoring in. And then also look at, what offerings are beyond the undergraduate level, because education continues. You continue to learn and educate yourself, after your undergraduate degree. So.
Got it. Yep, we're hearing you. We're hearing you. That's excellent. Nan, should I move on to one of our other questions, or another one from the crowd? And folks, if you're just joining us, when you have for another 9 minutes, please don't be bashful in sending over questions. Please use the type message here function on the right-hand navigation of the GoTo webinar. Nan, any other questions from the guests?
We have a few questions regarding grant scholarships. They want to know, how can you tell which colleges offer a large percent of grants, or how do you get access to them?
Excellent. And folks, this was on my list as well, and this came up again and again in the pre-questions for the night. And I'm wondering if we can, because we have a lot of young folks that are just starting the process, and parents that are just starting the process, some of whom have been to college, some of whom are first-generation families as well. If we could just give the definitions of what it means for a academic merit-based scholarship, need-based scholarships, just to set the tone.
Sure, I'm happy to. When we speak of merit-based scholarship, what that means, I'll start with need-based. What that means is it's needs tested. That is, the family submits the required FAFSA form, and for many institutions like Bucknell, we also require the College Board CSS. So that generates what we call the EFC, the expected family contribution, and we then take that expected contribution, subtracted from our cost of attendance that we covered earlier, the big four, and what's left is the need. And so need-based grants and self-help in the form of loans or work study will fill that gap. When we speak of merit aid, what we're saying is this is money that is given to students above any demonstrated need or without regard to need at all. So they're not even looking at the family's income and assets, et cetera. If you meet a certain, formula, you get a certain amount of money. So need-based merit, and I'll defer to my colleagues if I've muddied the waters there.
I would just add that all institutions are required to have a net price calculator. So for those of you who are joining us, just go out and type in net price calculator, put in the schools that you're interested in. Some schools, and I'll give you ASU's example, then have supplements. So we want students to look at our tuition calculator because we're on multiple campuses. So we have multiple tuition for our in-state students, for our out-of-state students, and for our international students. And then finally, we want students to look at merit scholarships in their individual way. So we have a third, what we call a scholarship estimator. So we just ask that you provide simple information on your grades, your class rank, your college admission test scores, and then to the best of our ability and what you shared with us, we tell you based on if you're a student from Illinois, certain grades and certain test scores, you may be eligible for merit assistance. Those are the tools that we want to give our parents and students as they start to look at finances and assistance.
Ken, I love that idea of a scholarship estimator. I was unaware of that at ASU, and I'll make sure that that's something that we follow on the Princeton Review side of the fence as well. One of the questions that came up, from our own questions pre this event was: is there a separate application for academic merit-based scholarships? We understand that the FAFSA form, we can chat about this too. The FAFSA form, free application for federal student aid, the CSS profile, that those are based on quantitative metrics based on family need. But the idea of academic merit-based scholarships, if your schools offer those scholarships, can you give us some guidance on how students apply for them? Or how are they considered? Yeah.
Yeah, well, at NJIT, there's a formula, and the student does not need to submit any separate type of paperwork. It's based on your admission, and there's a formula based on academic record, test scores, and we actually strive to not only provide the student with an acceptance letter, but a scholarship letter at the point of admission. But with that said, there are other opportunities. For example, as I think I said before, we have an honors college at NJIT, and the honors college is a separate admission to get into, and those students are considered for additional scholarships on top of students who are not part of the honors college. So you really need to investigate and research and talk to the institutions, explore their website. As Ken said, the tuition price calculator is a great place to start when you start to research colleges. But ask questions, because that's what we're here for.
I would kind of connect this question with the previous one about, when should I start looking for colleges? And if I could again offer some, strong encouragement not to start with the scholarship hunt,
right?
But start with an open book on what places, and you made an excellent point, Rob, there are colleges that are prototypes within 100 miles of where most of you live, that you can go and see a land grant, huge, ASU-like university, an urban university like NJIT, a suburban liberal arts college. So I really encourage students to start with, the self-examination, apply that to where should I look, get a feel for them. And then those individual colleges have very individualized scholarship and need-based programs. And it's going into their website that you find this out. Whatever you do, don't go onto the computer and pay for somebody who says, I'll find you scholarship money. That's, you have all the tools at your disposal. If you're watching this webinar, you have the tools.
Love it. Totally hear it. And this, and we say to students, and thinking about those merit-based aid, and as we're talking about, that there's not a separate application for those things, but there are all unique scholarships at so many of our different schools. But I remind students that applying for financial aid, FAFSA form, 50% of the average tuition dollars that a student can receive, and this is an average student across the states, can come from need-based dollars from the federal government, from the state government. The next biggest bucket, 40% bucket, comes from the schools themselves, you all, and that, again, when I say that to a crowd of students and parents, and I suspect our virtual crowd today, they take a breath, right? They can now, Bill, as you were saying at the beginning part of the process, they can now, that's palatable, right? That's an understandable thing, and it's a knowable thing. And it's based on the metrics that we're bringing to the table, right? If we are, we're superlative students academically, we should do our best in high school. We should do our best on standardized tests if the SAT and the ACT are still accepted for, for the majority of schools. But those metrics will also be valuable, not only academic admission, but in the merit-based scholarship process as well. So yeah, for those folks that are just starting off the process, great and good message there as well. Good stuff. One of the things, and just my last quick question, alumni. In thinking about, and just in my pre-work with all of your schools, obviously your schools have been around for a long time. You have great brand value. How do you use your alumni network? You all seem so powerfully to use that alumni network in different ways. Just quick, comments on that, and then we'll be respectful of your time and let you go.
Very quickly, I would have the students who are interested in ASU and are then interested maybe in particular academic programs of study, ask our colleges and schools to connect you with young alums. So when students are leaving the Cronkite School of Journalism, ask where they're going now and what they're doing.
Great advice. Love that. Stephen, Bill?
Quickly, interestingly, at Bucknell, our Career Center, Career Development Center, reports up through the development and alumni relations line. And it's done so, it's not an unusual model, but it's done so to really synergize connections with alumni, both young and those well off in their career paths. But that's one approach.
Love it. Well said, and I'll absolutely remember it. Stephen.
We leverage our alumni to help our students find jobs. And quite frankly, whether it be, on various organizations within the university, or even getting their companies to come back to our campus to interview students for jobs. So that's just a real simple way to get the alumni to give back to the institution. But we also profile our alumni so students understand, especially the young alumni, what their outcome was having an education from NJIT.
Good stuff. Fellas, this was just terrific. I thank you for your closing remarks. Nan, on the last slide, everybody's contact information is there. Folks listening virtually, or if you're joining and listening again, please don't hesitate to reach out to us if we need a sharper point on any of the questions that we covered today, things that are coming up. But I want to thank Kent from ASU, Stephen from NJIT, Bill from Bucknell. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your guidance. Much appreciated. And good luck, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night. Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Really nice meeting you guys. Bill, it was good to sit behind you.